So if you were building a physical brick and mortar storefront for a brand new business,
Yep.
you would never in a million years hire a plumber to do the electrical wiring.
Oh, no, absolutely not. That's a fire hazard waiting to happen.
Right, and you wouldn't hire a carpenter who just like flat out refuses to speak to the architect.
No, you'd fire them on the spot.
Exactly. Or, I don't know, a roofer who insists on using salvage materials from like 1995. You just wouldn't do it.
I mean, it would be a complete disaster. The foundation would probably crack, and the whole building would collapse before you even got the chance to, cut the ribbon on opening day.
Yeah, but here's the crazy thing. For some reason, when it comes to building digital storefronts, when we talk about web development, we have totally normalized this exact kind of chaotic, patched-together approach.
We really have. It's wild.
It is. We take a piece of code from this developer and a piece of code from that developer, slap them all together on a server, and just cross our fingers that the whole thing doesn't crash when a customer actually walks through the digital door.
Yeah, just hoping it holds together with digital duct tape.
Right. But, well, the landscape is shifting rapidly, and that's what we're looking at today. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Whether you're a business owner looking to upgrade your digital storefront, or just, a curious tech head wanting to know how the modern web is actually built, this session is for you.
Yeah, we are getting into some really fascinating stuff today.
We are. We're anchoring this deep dive into how top web development agencies actually operate right now, specifically focusing on a toolkit built around something called the Breakdance Visual Builder.
Which is really changing the game for agencies.
It is, because the mission here is to uncover how these top agencies are finally ditching those bloated, slow websites. They're using these all-in-one visual builders to create lightning-fast platforms. So, okay, let's unpack this, because the overarching reality we have to confront right out of the gate is this massive statistic.
Oh, the adoption rate.
Yes. 64% of U.S. small businesses are now defaulting to builder platforms over traditional custom development. 64%.
I mean, that is a staggering majority. It represents a tectonic shift in how the internet is being constructed right now.
Yeah.
And to really understand why that shift is happening, we have to look at the underlying mechanics of modern digital business.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it is no longer just about having a website.
Right. Anyone can have a website.
Exactly. It is about building trust through absolute reliability and blistering speed. Modern agencies are trying to solve actual business problems like cart abandonment or lead generation, and they simply cannot do that if they are constantly battling a phenomenon known in the industry as plug-in bloat.
Okay, let's unpack this concept of bloat, because
Wow.
it's really the fundamental problem driving this entire shift. If we want to understand why top agencies are ditching traditional methods, we have to understand what actually makes a website slow.
Right.
Let me try an analogy here. Relying on dozens of third-party plugins to make your website work is essentially like packing for a simple weekend trip, but deciding to bring your entire wardrobe, like winter coats, scuba gear, a tuxedo just in case.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it, actually.
Really?
Yeah, because in traditional web development, particularly in environments like older WordPress setups, every time you add a plugin for a specific feature, say, I don't know, a contact form or an image gallery, that plugin comes with its own massive suitcase.
A suitcase of code?
Exactly.
Yeah.
A suitcase of CSS, which is the code for styling things, and JavaScript, which is the code for the actual functionality.
So when I visit that website as a user, what is my browser actually doing with all those extra suitcases?
Well, imagine your web browser is a really meticulous customs agent.
Okay.
Before it lets you, the user, actually see and interact with the web page, it has to unpack every single item in every single suitcase.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It has to download, read, and parse the code for the winter coat and the scuba gear, even if the specific page you are visiting only requires a t-shirt.
That sounds exhausting for the browser.
It is. And that parsing process takes time. It might just be milliseconds per file, but those milliseconds compound really rapidly.
Which brings us to the data we pulled on this. Because when comparing the raw code output, the weight of those suitcases, essentially a platform like Breakdance produces an average page size of 286 kilobytes.
Right.
But for context, one of its major visual builder competitors averages 767 kilobytes for building the exact same page layout.
I mean, it's nearly 3 times as heavy.
3 times.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that lighter code output directly translates into how Google evaluates your entire business.
Because Google cares about speed.
Oh, they care immensely.
Yeah.
Google relies on metrics called Core Web Vitals and Page Speed Insights. They measure exactly how long it takes for your site to become visible and interactive.
Right.
And these aren't just vanity metrics. Google actively uses them to determine where your site ranks in search results.
So even if you don't care about code at all, like if you're just a business owner, you have to care about this. Faster sites rank higher, they provide a better user experience, and a better experience directly impacts the bottom line. I mean, if a page takes 3 extra seconds to load because it's downloading like 700 kilobytes of unnecessary instructions on how to format a button that isn't even on the screen, your customer is already gone.
Oh, yeah. They've clicked the back button.
Yeah.
The modern internet does not reward patience.
No, it really doesn't. But, okay, here's the tension. Stripping a website down to be incredibly lightweight and fast is great. But usually, that means making it look incredibly boring.
Right, the old trade-off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If a site looks like a generic text document from 1998, no one is going to buy from it. So this naturally leads us to how these agencies are handling the visual architecture without sacrificing all that speed.
Right, and there are 2 major tools we need to look at here inside Breakdance: Element Studio and Global Styles Management.
Let's start with Element Studio. What does that actually do?
Well, it essentially bridges the gap between hard coding and visual design. Traditionally, if an agency wanted a highly custom, unique interactive element on a page, a developer had to just write it from scratch in a code editor.
Which takes forever.
Right. But Element Studio allows developers to craft those custom components using a visual interface while still working directly with HTML, CSS, and Twig templating under the hood.
Hold up, you just casually dropped Twig templating in there.
Did I?
Yeah, and I'm going to need you to explain that to me like I'm 5, because it sounds like we're doing arts and crafts. What exactly is a Twig template?
Fair question, yeah. So think of standard PHP, which is the coding language WordPress runs on, as being a bit messy when you mix it directly with HTML design code.
Okay, messy how?
It's like trying to write a novel and a math textbook on the exact same page. It gets cluttered.
Oh, I see.
So Twig is what we call a template engine. It acts as a really clean translator. It allows developers to safely pull dynamic data from the database and inject it into the HTML design without writing all that complex, messy PHP logic directly into the visual code.
So it keeps the code organized.
Exactly. It keeps the design side incredibly clean, which again keeps the site incredibly fast.
Okay, that makes sense. It's keeping the math and the storytelling separate.
Perfectly said.
But I still have a major concern here. If an agency is relying on a visual builder with pre-made elements, I mean, even if there are over 145 built-in elements, as the data suggests, isn't there a massive risk that all of their clients' websites will eventually just look exactly the same?
It's a totally valid concern. And honestly, it's the exact reason why a lot of purist developers used to look down on visual builders.
Right, the cookie-cutter reputation.
Exactly. But the mechanism that prevents that cookie-cutter outcome today is the second tool you mentioned, Global Styles Management.
Okay, so how does that actually work in practice?
Well, think about the manual labor involved in traditional web design. Let's say an agency finishes a massive, 50-page site, and the client suddenly decides their primary brand color needs to shift from navy blue to forest green.
Oh, clients love doing that.
They do. And in the past, a developer might have to hunt down the specific hex code, like the 6-digit identifier for that exact color, on every single button, header, and link across 50 individual pages.
Which sounds like an absolute nightmare of data entry.
It is entirely tedious. But with a robust global style system, you aren't just applying a temporary skin to the site. You are defining the fundamental rules of the universe for that specific website.
The rules of the universe. I like that.
Yeah, you define your typography, your exact spacing algorithms,
Right.
your color palettes, all in one central location. You literally tell the system, this is what primary color means.
Okay.
So when the client wants green instead of blue, you just change the definition of the primary color in one single field. And the entire architecture of the site updates instantaneously.
Wow. So instead of repainting every individual house in a neighborhood, you are just altering the chemical formula of the paint at the factory.
Precisely. And because these tools completely eliminate that manual data entry, agencies suddenly have vastly more time and budget to iterate on creative, highly unique designs.
Because they aren't bogged down in the mechanics of changing colors.
Right. In fact, we are seeing a 20% jump in a single year in page builder adoption across the professional agency space.
20% in a year? That's huge.
It is. That spike reflects a massive demand for tools that allow agencies to increase their efficiency at scale without losing that essential, unique brand identity.
Okay, so we've got a lightning-fast, highly customized visual platform, but let's be real, a pretty website is essentially just a digital brochure unless it can actually do something, right?
Right, it needs to function.
It needs functional muscle.
Okay.
If you're a retail client, a fast site that can't process a transaction is totally useless. So how does this modern ecosystem handle the heavy lifting of data and e-commerce?
This is where we get into the real engine room. The two critical tools here are Advanced Custom Fields, commonly known as ACF, and deep WooCommerce integration.
Let's start with ACF.
So ACF is the tool that transforms a static digital brochure into a dynamic, data-driven platform.
Okay, let's break down what data-driven actually means for the end user. Give me a concrete example of how ACF changes the architecture of a site.
Sure. Imagine a real estate agency's website. If it is built statically, a designer has to manually create a brand new custom web page for every single house that goes on the market.
Okay.
They have to manually type in the price, upload the photos to specific spots, format the text for the square footage. It is incredibly inefficient.
And if the price drops, someone has to go dig through the design to change a single number.
Exactly. It's a huge time sink. But with advanced custom fields, you separate the data from the design. You basically create a structured database.
Okay, so how does the agent use it?
The real estate agent just logs in and fills out a simple, standardized form. Price, bedrooms, photos. That's it.
Well, that's easy.
Right. And then the visual builder automatically queries that database, pulls that raw data, and perfectly formats it into a beautiful property listing based on those global styles we just talked about.
That is so much faster.
It is. It also automatically updates the site's search filters and adds the new listing to the homepage carousel. The entire site just operates dynamically.
It's like plugging a massive intelligent spreadsheet directly into a beautiful design template.
It is, and it is absolutely crucial for complex projects like membership platforms, online courses, or extensive portfolios.
Which brings us to the retail side of things, because the source notes that 81% of shoppers conduct online research before they make a purchase. 81%.
That's almost everyone.
It really is. That means a digital storefront has to be incredibly intuitive. It has to feel frictionless, or they'll just bounce. And the toolkit we are looking at tackles this with over 35 dedicated WooCommerce elements natively built in.
Right, which means agencies can visually construct custom shopping carts, personalized checkout flows, and complex product filters.
But what's fascinating here isn't just the visual customization, is it?
No, what's truly fascinating is how the software handles the underlying resources required for all that e-commerce functionality. Because WooCommerce, as a platform, is notoriously heavy.
Heavy in terms of code. Why is it so heavy? What is it actually doing behind the scenes?
Well, e-commerce requires really complex scripts. Think about the shopping cart icon in the top corner of a website.
Yeah, the little basket.
Right. For that little number to update from a 1 to a 2 when you add a product, without the whole page refreshing, it requires specific JavaScript known as cart fragments.
Okay.
And it requires session tracking to remember who you are. The problem is traditional WordPress themes often load all of that heavy e-commerce code on every single page of the website by default.
Let me guess. So even if a user is just reading the About Us page or reading a blog post, their browser is downloading all the code required to process a credit card transaction.
That is exactly what happens. It's incredibly inefficient.
That is wild. It's like a store clerk carrying a heavy cash register around the shop while you're just asking for directions to the restroom.
That is a perfect analogy. But modern visual builders like Breakdance utilize conditional, smart resource loading.
So it only loads when you need it.
Exactly. The system recognizes the context of the page. It actively prevents those e-commerce scripts and styling suitcases from loading unless the user is actually on a shop page, a product page, or the checkout.
Wow. So the rest of the site stays incredibly lean, bypassing the bloat entirely.
Exactly.
Okay, so a highly optimized e-commerce engine catches the buyers. But what about the window shoppers? Because the vast majority of traffic doesn't buy on the first visit, right?
Oh, definitely not.
So how do agencies capture those leads without adding all that weight back in?
This is the art of nurturing leads, and it relies on two more critical tools in the arsenal: native form builders and native pop-up builders.
And the keyword there is native. We're talking about multi-step forms, conditional logic, spam protection, all living directly inside the builder without having to install external plugins.
Right.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because conditional logic is huge here. It means the form can actually change its questions based on what the user previously answered, making it feel like a human conversation rather than a rigid tax document. Plus, they have native API integrations with platforms like MailChimp and ActiveCampaign and ConvertKit, so again, no external plugins.
The efficiency and speed benefits of keeping this native are obvious, based on everything we've discussed so far. But this raises an immensely important point that so many business owners overlook.
What's that?
The hidden, arguably most critical benefit of native lead generation tools is security.
Security. I'm not following. Why would a tool that just collects email addresses or pops up a discount code be a major security risk?
Yeah. Because of how third-party plugins operate. Every single time you install an external plugin on a website, you're essentially giving a piece of code written by a complete stranger access to your server and your database.
Oh, wow. Okay, I never thought of it like that.
Right. If the original developer of that random pop-up plugin gets bored and abandons the project or, fails to patch a new security vulnerability, hackers actively scan the internet for sites running that outdated code.
Oh, so they are looking for weaknesses.
Exactly.
All right.
They could use that unlocked door to execute SQL injections, which is a way to manipulate your database, or launch cross-site scripting attacks, ultimately gaining control of your entire website.
Just from a pop-up plugin?
Yes. By keeping highly sensitive interactive features like contact forms that write to databases native to the core builder, agencies drastically reduce their attack surface.
So every external plugin is essentially another door to your house that you have to constantly check to make sure it's locked.
That's exactly what it is.
That is incredibly practical advice. Anyone listening should probably log into their digital properties today and audit just how many unnecessary, potentially abandoned plugins are quietly sitting there as unlocked doors.
I highly recommend doing that. It is one of the most common ways businesses get compromised.
Right. So we've established the tech stack. We have the speed, the visual control, the dynamic data, the e-commerce muscle, and the secure lead generation. But how does an agency actually operationalize this toolkit to make money?
Right, the business side.
Yeah. This brings us to the business of building workflow, pricing, and a fascinating concept called going themeless.
So operationalizing this requires a highly disciplined workflow. Top agencies don't just throw tools at a canvas to see what sticks. They utilize rigorous project kickoffs to clearly define the architecture before a single pixel is even moved.
So they map it all out first.
Exactly. They decide up front, like this specific client requirement will be handled by advanced custom fields. This section relies on global styles. This unique interactive feature requires Element Studio.
It prevents redundant work, and I imagine it keeps the team from stepping on each other's toes.
Definitely.
But I have to ask about the WordPress ecosystem specifically, because I've always understood WordPress as fundamentally having two layers. There's the core software itself, and then a theme that sits on top of it to dictate how it looks. Does this modern system play nice with existing WordPress setups? What if a client loves their current theme?
Well, while tools like Breakdance are technically theme agnostic and can work alongside traditional themes, the most radical and effective approach top agencies are taking right now is going entirely themeless.
Themeless. How does a WordPress website even exist without a theme?
It requires a bit of technical maneuvering, but essentially, the visual builder bypasses the WordPress template hierarchy entirely.
Okay.
It completely disables the active WordPress theme layer, stripping away the traditional, the style.css and index.php files that usually dictate the design.
Wow.
Yeah. By doing this, the builder assumes 100% control of the site's visual output.
But why go to all that trouble? What is the tangible benefit of stripping the theme out completely?
To permanently eliminate CSS conflicts.
Conflicts.
Yeah. Let's say you have a traditional WordPress theme that has hard-coded instructions telling the browser, make all the buttons square and blue.
Okay.
But then you use a visual page builder on top of it, and you tell the builder, make the buttons rounded and red.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Right. When a user visits the site, their browser receives both sets of conflicting instructions. It has to load the extra weight, process the argument, and figure out which code wins.
Which wastes resources and creates the bloat we talked about in the very beginning.
Exactly. And sometimes elements will just randomly break on the front end because the theme's code suddenly overrides the builder's code after a software update. Going themeless surgically removes that underlying layer of arguments. It results in incredibly clean, stable code.
Which obviously impacts the agency's bottom line. When we look at the economics of this in the source material, the profit margins are massive
Oh, they are.
because agencies are typically charging anywhere from, what, $1,500, $5,000 for a standard 5 to 10-page business site, and significantly more for complex e-commerce. Yet, they can license a tool like Breakdance Pro Unlimited for just $199.99 a year,
Right.
and that single license covers unlimited client sites.
It is a profound structural shift in agency overhead.
Yeah.
You are moving away from paying thousands of dollars annually in various, fragmented plug-in licenses and countless hours in custom development time to a single, hyper-efficient, centralized tool.
The margins scale beautifully.
They really do.
So what does this all mean? As we've noted, that the client doesn't care about the wrench. They care about the house. They never see the builder interface. They aren't inspecting the code, but they absolutely feel the speed. They see the visual polish, and they experience the power of the conversions when their sales start going up.
Ultimately, combining the right native tools with a clear, disciplined process is the ultimate competitive advantage in this industry right now. It is what allows a modern agency to deliver truly professional, highly secure, lightning-fast digital storefronts in a matter of days rather than months.
It really does completely shift the paradigm.
It does. And, well, leaves me with a thought I'd love for you to ponder long after we wrap up today.
Oh, lay it on us.
We have just explored how a unified visual builder can seamlessly handle complex database structures, intricate conditional logic, and vast e-commerce ecosystems, all without requiring the user to write a single line of custom external code.
Right.
So if that is the new reality of the internet, does the traditional definition of a web developer need to fundamentally change?
Right.
Are we entering an era where we are no longer primarily coders, but rather visual architects?
Oh, wow. That is a phenomenal question to chew on. The hard hats and the messy construction sites of the early web are quickly making way for clean rooms and master blueprints. I love that.
Yeah, the industry is definitely growing up.
It is. I want to encourage you to take a hard look at your own tech stack today. Question the bloat, secure those unlocked digital doors we talked about, and just keep seeking out smarter, faster ways to build your corner of the internet. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.